So here's what happened last episode. Lil Frankie's trial is coming up, but there's a problem.
Chicago police search for a missing witness in the Leonard Clark beating case.
Where is Richard DeSantis?
Then another key witness is murdered.
Michael Cutler was killed in what police say was a holdup.
Lots of folks aren't buying it. His family goes on Dateline.
You think he was killed to keep him from testifying?
In my heart, I believe that, yeah.
The judge says the same.
I felt, that he was hit.
And the prosecutors too.
I just, to this day, find it hard to believe that that's just a coincidence.
But Lil Frankie's trial must go on. This ain't an episode of Law & Order, so I'm going to tell you what happened from the jump. Frankie Caruso's charged with attempted murder, aggravated battery, and a hate crime. He shows up at trial in a suit about 3 sizes too big, makes him look like a little kid.
Defense attorneys tried to portray Caruso as a good boy who attended church and even crossed racial lines in donating food baskets to the poor.
There's this journalist, Steve Bogira, wrote a book called Courtroom 302. He says that during breaks, Frankie's mom is carrying a rosary, and Frankie's dad is reading from the Bible and passing out homemade cookies.
All PR bullshit.
That's Dan Lacour, the judge. He's retired now. He thinks this whole thing should be a movie, and he should be played by Richard Gere. Judge Lacour says that the Caruso's attitude at the trial was always, let's move past this.
We have to forget about what happened to Leonard Clark. That's old news. Let's move forward. We got to forget about that. Let's go to this racial healing baloney.
The day of the verdict, the city is on edge.
In Chicago today, a jury began deliberations in the high-profile...
We don't know if it's going to be another Rodney King. It was that big a case. For the charge of aggravated battery, the jury finds Frankie Caruso guilty. For the hate crime charge, guilty. For the charge of attempted murder, not guilty. Judge Lacour was going to be the one to decide how much time Frankie was going to get.
We are confronted primarily with a moral issue.
At sentencing, he rambles on and on with his long speech.
The heart of the question is whether all Americans...
connecting this case to the civil rights movement.
On December 1st, 1955, seamstress Rosa Parks, 1962, President John F. Kennedy, was required to call in federal troops. The freedom to sit anywhere on a bus, the freedom to pursue a quality education.
Frankie was facing 13 years. Lacour sentences him to 8.
In handing down the 8-year sentence, Judge Daniel Locallo said he thought Frank Caruso was out of control.
After the sentencing, Lenar's mom, Wanda, gets ushered out of the courtroom with Cook County sheriffs. She got on yellow, striped pantsuit, her hair's done, and she's smiling. There's a car waiting on her, and as she's getting in, reporters are throwing microphones in her face.
Your thoughts?
I have justice.
I have justice. 1 year, 6 months, and 24 days after her little boy went on a bike ride. After he was left for dead on a sidewalk. After having to learn to eat and speak again. After months of trial delays. Lenar's mom says she has justice. I'm Yohance Lacour, and you didn't see nothing. So Frankie's trial was over. But remember, he wasn't the only one charged. His 2 buddies were scheduled to go to trial the following week, but that never happened.
In Chicago, 2 young white men have negotiated a plea bargain and received a light sentence.
They made us an offer we couldn't refuse. We just couldn't refuse the probation.
Kudzinski and Geis pled guilty only to battery and will receive between 2 and 3 years probation each and 300 hours of community service.
Frankie's friends got no jail time. I was hot. I was already not feeling Frankie getting only 8 years. Now you telling me he the only one of them going to prison? Lil Frankie's family was pissed too. They wasn't cool with Frankie being the only one going down for this. On NBC News, there's a reporter standing in the lobby of the courthouse getting people's reactions. Lil Frankie's supporters want to be heard. An older white guy in a blue sweater looking mad. This dude points directly at the camera.
No justice! No justice!
Eruptions so heated from Frank Caruso Jr.'s family, a prosecutor said she'd never seen a rowdier crowd in a court hearing.
The judge, the mayor, the state's attorneys, and the prosecutors sold out to get votes from the black community.
On the other side of town, at Reverend B. Herbert Martin's church, Caruso's supporters come together for a press conference. It's in a classroom. Imagine a low-budget post-game interview. You got the long table, the metal folding chairs, whole bunch of microphones. Frankie Caruso's parents are there, but they off to the side somewhere. So we found a video, and all you see is black folks for a Frankie Caruso press conference. This is the moment that set off a civil war in Black Chicago. Reverend Martin kicks things off.
Okay, brothers and sisters, we've called a press conference together today to respond to the sentencing, and we've assembled ourselves to decry what we consider a terrible miscarriage of justice.
At the center of this press conference is a brother with a beard in a suit, Prince Asiel Ben Israel. Here he is talking about people demonizing the Caruso family.
The demonizing of the Caruso family as the only negative force that was involved in this act.
He was a major figure in Black Chicago. He was a leader of the Hebrew Israelite community, and he started a restaurant called Soul Vegetarian, which is a pillar on the South Side.
It has never seemed to be a case about three people. It has always been a case about one person.
So do you believe then that Frank Caruso Jr. is the scapegoat in all of this?
I think so.
Asiel was like a spokesman for Lenar's mom throughout the whole ordeal. And she's here too, sitting next to Asiel with her purse on her lap.
Wanda McMurray is here to state from her own mouth and from her heart how she feels about what happened.
He says Wanda is here to speak from her own mouth and her own heart. But Wanda has a hard time getting a word in.
She don't see how they can get 10 years and they get nothing. She wasn't looking for isolation and personal persecution. She was looking for justice.
But if Mr. Caruso...
What she's saying is what she would consider justice. I don't think she has thought about that, and she feels, and I feel certainly that the process was not just.
Asiel says she feels, and I feel certain that the process was not just. Now remember, just 1 week ago, Wanda left the courthouse saying, "I have justice." But now she's got Asiel and Martin with her, and they singing a different tune. Now justice would seem to be Frankie getting 0 jail time too. A reporter asked Wanda directly how she felt when she heard the other boys got probation.
What did you say to them when I told you this?
Well, I didn't say anything because I was hurt. I had chest pain, I was still shocked. You know, because I don't think that's fair to Frank Caruso.
Lenar Clark's mother saying she thinks Frankie Caruso was treated unfairly.
I can't keep my mouth shut when the devil got his foot in our behind, when the devil got his knee on our neck. I can't be quiet.
Zakiya Muhammad. Miss Muhammad's been on the front lines of a lot of issues affecting black folks, from mental health to mass incarceration. She never minces words. Miss Muhammad says she went to every day of Frankie's trial, and every day she'd call into the radio station WVON to give a report.
This is the Cliff Kelly Show with your host, Cliff Kelly.
I had people that say, Zakiya, you know, when you come on, I pull over so I can hear what happened in the courtroom because, you know, working people, they couldn't go to the trial.
Cliff Kelly was the voice of Black Talk Radio at that time.
Perry Small works at WVON.
You know, WVON listeners were so angry about what had happened. People wanted to go over there and burn up Bridgeport. They wanted to kick Caruso's ass. They wanted to do all that. And then there were other people who said, well, you know, just like how black people are all the time, well, we forgive them. Cliff wasn't having it. He just wasn't.
Zakiya Muhammad let it be known that she wasn't forgiving anybody. And she was angry about these black men siding with the attackers. She called them sellouts and traitors. Other people called them Sambos and Uncle Toms because of the way they wholeheartedly took part in the Frankie Caruso Kumbaya campaign.
Instead of justice for Leonard Clark, it was let's heal, let's love each other. It wasn't about Caruso beating the hell out of this child and stomping his head into the pavement.
So, the Can't We All Just Get Along crew consisted of Reverend Martin, of course, and Prince ICL. And there was one other brother Zakiya kept her eye on in the courtroom, Wallace Gator Bradley. Gator sat with the Carusos during the trial, hugged them, told the newspapers he was there to make sure Frankie got a fair trial. This was especially disappointing to me because I knew who Gator was and I respected him. He was an older dude from the streets, about the same things I was about, the growth and development of the black community. I only went to one day of the trial. I can name plenty of reasons for not going more. So many of these black leaders selling out, it was sickening. I didn't have a driver's license. I had a play coming out. I was trying to make money. I was still doing some reporting, but truth is, I was starting to get pretty disillusioned by all of it. I had to question whether writing articles could even do shit. One day I'm in the South Street Journal office working, and Gator Bradley walks in. I had words with him about his support for the Carusos. I was like, how are you supporting these people? I get these pastors, and they gonna say what they gonna say, but why would you fuck with these Italians? And he said, basically, black people can get something out of this situation. If Frankie goes to jail, Leonard's still gonna be fucked up, and our community get nothing. That was his mindset. Now I understand being strategic, but did he really think him doing PR for Frank Caruso was gonna benefit all of us? How? One day at Frankie's trial, things got especially heated.
I goes out in the hallway and Wallace Gator Bradley called me every ugly, nasty name you can think of. He told me to kiss his ass and that I needed a man.
I imagine these guys thought nobody had the guts to stand up to him. And here's this black woman defying him, speaking out about what she saw him doing, going on the radio every day, calling them out as sellouts and traitors. Gator couldn't take it.
He hurt me so bad. I came home, I didn't answer the phone because I didn't want to talk to nobody about how I felt. You can imagine how they were standing there looking at me. How hateful. I mean, hate in their eyes, hate in their, and I had nobody. I never felt lonely in my life. And I've been by myself a lot because I'm an only child.
So the only thing I'm upset about is that I couldn't have been in that number of people who was there to make you feel protected in that courtroom. You understand me? So thank you. This was almost 25 years ago, but Zakiya's wounds still feel fresh.
If you can imagine Black people picking cotton in the field, and one of the women say, I'm tired, I can't go no further, and the master get down off of the horse and start whipping her with his whip, and the brother start cheering the master. Yes, master, that's right. She ain't got no business being tied. I'm picking cotton. She can pick cotton too. Beat her, master, beat her. That is what Wallace Gator Bradley did to me. I'll never accept an apology from me. Ever. Because that's a wound that ain't gonna never heal.
While Frankie was on trial, there was a young guy, community organizer in Chicago, named Bomani Obadeli, who was listening to VON.
Zakia called in on the radio and talked about how Gator just lambasted her in the hallway. I said, okay, that's it. I called in on VON. I said, hey, this was probably on a Wednesday. That Sunday we're going to start at all them churches. And people showed up, and that's what started it.
That Sunday, Bomani and some comrades went to Reverend Martin's church to protest.
Our congregation is being picketed by our own brothers and sisters for my role in the Lacour case.
We found footage of Reverend Martin's sermon from that Sunday.
I have one question to ask. Who is it that benefits from this division among us? Right. Does Bernard Clark, his mother, benefit? No, sir. Does the African American community in general benefit from this kind of division among us? No, sir. Who benefits?
They got a big speaker outside the church so everybody on the street can hear the sermon. And Martin is blaming the protesters for dividing the community.
So you will hear all kinds of profane words spoken, but they are just words. Understand it now. All the devil has ever had is a mouth. We prayed together, and we sought the Holy Spirit's leading and guidance on how to proceed to maintain.
Outside on the sidewalk, Bomani's in a yellow and brown dashiki, and he's got a bullhorn.
We come to let you know and put you on notice the Black community will not continue to take no disrespect.
The Black community will not continue to take no disrespect. Bomani's yelling at folks as they enter the church. You standing with white folks over in Bridgeport.
I don't care where you from.
The churchgoers ain't having it. At one point, there's pushing and shoving between the two groups. The cops show up.
263 David. Because I understand that there's been a small altercation out there, and the police are standing by to arrest people who act out of order. That's why they come, to get us to act out of order. Amen.
Caruso had relationships with certain police, so they would come and say, well, y'all can't protest today. I say, well, you're going to have to show me where we can't. It's all right. Well, you're going to go to jail. I say, okay, good. Lock us all up. Call your wagon.
The cops tell Bomani that he can't use his bullhorn no more, so he just cups his hands and keeps shouting.
Nigga Martin, we still here. We still here, nigga Martin. How much money did Frank Caruso give you today? You piece of silver. How much you get today, nigga Martin? You piece of silver.
How much money did Frank Caruso give you today? How much you get today, nigga Martin?
Nigga Martin, we ain't going nowhere. There will be no healing. We ain't doing no more, man. Forget it. Where's the reward at? Where's Brother Creed? We ain't forgetting those folks to kick our ass. We ain't going nowhere, nigga Martin. We still here.
Most people remember Old Dirty Bastard as the stage-crashing secret weapon of Wu-Tang Clan, a raw showman with a wild sense of humor who left a lot of people confused, especially after his death. But I want to tell you the full story of ODB, a man of many names, a god in hip-hop, and the ruler of his own destiny. I'm Kalik Allah. From USG Audio, Novel, and Talkhouse, it's ODB, A Son Unique. Available now wherever you get your podcast.
Back at Reverend Martin's church and the protests outside, there are two alternate realities. One where Martin alleges Caruso never beat Lenar.
The real beaters of Lenar Clark are still walking the street, ready to repeat their barbarous activity. That's right. Come on, Pastor.
The real beaters of Lenar Clark are still on the street. And there's another reality outside where folks are mad as hell that this lie is being perpetuated.
Our cup of forgiveness is broke, so we can't put no more forgiveness in it.
Our cup of forgiveness is broke. We can't put no more forgiveness in it. Then these two worlds collide. Reverend Martin invites the protesters inside. They done just called them all kind of nigga Martins and how much silver are you taking, Judas? And he invites them inside to talk in his church. It's a huge group, mostly black folks, coming together in the same tiny classroom where that press conference was a few days earlier. Martin stands at a podium in a black suit with a blue tie. He looks exhausted. Bomani and his comrades are in their street clothes, sitting down in chairs. Martin's parishioners, in their Sunday best, are at the back of the room watching their pastor.
I'm willing to lay myself open before you and attempt to answer your questions.
He says, I'm willing to lay myself open before you and attempt to answer your questions. And the first question comes from Bomani.
Is Frank Caruso wrong for beating Lenar Clark?
Did Frank Caruso?
No, I didn't say did he. I said he's been convicted. Well, is he wrong?
Is Frank Caruso wrong for beating Lenar Clark?
If he beat him, yes.
If he beat him, yes.
What do you mean if? This is my whole premise. This is why we here, because you going on the premise of if.
Wait. Have you read the police report?
Have I read the police report?
Yes,
no, I didn't have to read it. He was pointed out by another brother who was there.
That's why you have to read the police report. Right. You must read the police report.
Okay, so the police report says something different.
Definitely.
What did it say?
I want you to read it.
No, what did it say? We're not privy to that.
Martin says there's information Bomani needs to know in the police report. Information that might put in question if Frankie Caruso was the attacker. But he refuses to say what that information is. If this police report clears Frankie, why was he just found guilty? And why won't Herbert Martin share this information?
But now that's the work that you guys got to do. See, don't ask me to do your work. Don't ask me to do your work.
But you're taking a position that's contrary to the community.
But you the one taking the position that's contrary to the community, Bomani tells him. I can only imagine how frustrating it was watching this reverend condescend and talk in circles. Here's Bomani again.
Yeah, I understand this. My main concern is Lenar Clark. My main concern is black children as a whole. And it stands again, you have a brother who picked this boy out, say he beat me. He's the one who did it. As a black man, how could you sit by and not do anything?
I ain't know Bomani back then, but I'm sure we crossed paths somewhere. I believe we were on the same age. I was about 24 in 97.
So it may be just a year difference. Okay. Yeah, I was probably as slim as you are now. a rugged vegetarian back then. Oh, life was great.
Back then, Soul Veg was pretty much the only black-owned restaurant serving this kind of food on the South Side.
I would go on my lunch break and then back for dinner.
It was owned by Prince ICL, the guy who kept talking over Wanda at the press conference. So smoky vegan greens be damned. Bomani and Zakiya started picketing his restaurant.
We got a Negro Prince over here. was giving aid and comfort to some white folk who beat up a young black child.
I had a long banner I had made. I defined a traitor. And cars was passing, and they were saying, "Who's the traitor, miss?" We stopped traffic down there that day.
I wrote about the protests in the South Street Journal. With all the coverage of these kumbaya folks, it felt good to highlight somebody really pushing the line. We found video of one of the protests filmed by a local activist.
Where's the real justice? He will turn over his grave if he saw you over there. Shame on you. We trained you over at the wire. You used to come over there. Now you're over there those trainers. Shame on you. Shame on you, Chaka.
It's December in Chicago, so most people are wearing coats, except for Bomani, who has on a Bears sweatshirt, some white shorts, and Timberlands. You can see cars from the 80s and 90s driving by, slowing down to get a glimpse of the commotion. The old Soul Veg sign on 75th Street with the yellow awning. And on the sidewalk in front of the restaurant, there's a group of ICL supporters.
We support the Prince, brothers. We support the Prince.
We support the Prince. Don't support sellouts. We support the Prince. I don't. They pumping their fists, both sides, getting louder and louder. The protesters are outside waving homemade picket signs. One has Lennar's face on it and says, "A hate crime is a hate crime is a hate crime." And another one says, "Herbert Martin, Judas."
Hello, Negroes! We got some Negroes over there who sold the black community out. They support white folks that beat black children. I hope you got your
Bomani says people started tracking him down, trying to get him to back off.
I even had one guy came with an envelope full of money and say, "Listen, you take this money. I know you got a family, you got to take this money and leave RCL alone."
Bomani did have a family. He and his wife had just had their first daughter. But he says he ain't take the money, and I believe him. Then Bomani says he starts finding newspaper articles about Michael Cutler outside his house, the murdered witness.
The articles mysteriously would show up on my cars, right, on my wife's car. Just the article highlight of the guy's witness and dead. I mean, when I read it, I said, okay, this is not by coincidence, right? So there's someone trying to send a message. So I handed it over to my wife. Now, she's now petrified. You're getting calls and death threats. People talking about they're going to kill you and all this crazy stuff. And then there were guys who would walk up to me and said, "Man, you standing here right now, I could blow your head off. And would nobody give a fuck. Leave Herbert Martin alone. Leave RCL alone."
This whole story was bananas, but the way these dudes seemed to control Lennar's mother was especially outrageous. And Bomani saw it too, so he reached out to Wanda to offer support.
The black community was going to stay by their side if there was anything that they needed. She talked about food and some other things.
One day, he and some comrades take a meal to Wanda's house. When one of Prince ICL's sons, Omnicon, walks in the door.
He walks in like he owns the house. I mean, like it was his house.
Bomani and his crew look at each other like, what was that all about? Dude takes Wanda to the back of the house.
And then she comes back and says, "Well, he would like for y'all to leave." I said, "Well, who is he?" And so we get the exchange of words. He still don't say nothing. It seemed that there's some level of intimidation or fear that she had, right? I could see it on her face.
Bomani and his guys left. They didn't want to make new problems for Wanda. But as they're leaving, some cars come speeding the wrong way down the one-way street, and they pull up on Bomani and his crew.
12 guys jump out. We were accosted with guns drawn on us. Yeah, y'all, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it just got real, man. We could have been killed. I'm just going to be frank with you.
A neighbor calls the police, and Bomani and his guys got away without incident.
It's unfortunately something like this which caused this type of divide in the black community, right? And the community got divided. I'm just tell you that right now. It got divided, man.
And this divide, it was deep. Just listen to Cliff Kelly, the radio host, going back and forth with these guys on Channel 11. Shit got personal.
Most people just think that that people are being paid off. I mean, that's what the consensus of the community is.
Let me finish answering.
Fellas said you should be in jail 100 years for selling drugs.
You're the only
Cliff, hold on a minute.
And that has no issue.
I don't think that has anything to do with the question. So, Clifford, hold on a minute.
No,
all right, Maurice,
the only reason
let him finish, and then you can respond.
I'm not with all that passive, turning the other cheek, forgiveness. And it ain't easy when you standing up for right, when you surrounded by a bunch of sellout, hypocritical lowlifes.
A bunch of sellout, hypocritical lowlifes. That's what Zakiya calls these black dudes who were standing with Frankie Caruso. While I've been working on this project, I've been talking to a lot of folks about this idea of selling out. A few people asked, what about me? Selling drugs, did that make me a sellout? You know, I was sentenced to 10 years and did 8.
You didn't kill anybody, did you?
I sold drugs to people who wanted them. I did.
Okay, so you sold out.
It kind of fucked me up, if I'm being honest.
What did you go to jail for?
Drugs.
So, should we apply the same standard to you?
What standard is that?
Well, you was selling the drugs to our people.
I asked a couple of my buddies what they thought about the idea, whether I sold out or not.
In your case, I definitely wouldn't call you a sellout.
That's Ro. He's one of the guys who I rode through Bridgeport with right after this shit happened.
Yeah, you sold out. You ain't had no more.
And that's Pee-wee. He was in the car with us too. Do you think I sold out?
Nah, hell nah. How can you sell out when you did 12 years? No. No.
It was 10, but...
10, 12, 15, like it's all the same.
For Pee-wee, the fact that I took my punishment means I ain't sell out. But really, it's more nuanced than that. It's more layers. Did I sell out? Have I ever sold out? Yeah. It hurts to admit it, but if I'm being real with myself, I did. I'll never forget riding the bus. I think I was coming from a court hearing, and I see a dude in front of a liquor store nodding off, laying out on the street. And I know that's what heroin does to people. You know, I'd been rationalizing my role in this part of the destruction of black folks. You know, I was selling weight. I was selling large quantities of heroin to somebody else who was actually hand-to-hand selling heroin to end users. Some of whom were probably just like this dude in front of the liquor store nodding off, slobbing on himself. And I realized, yeah, man, your fingerprint is on this shit. Some of this blood is on your hands, man. That's a sellout move.
So I believe it's problematic to, if you love black people, to sell a product that you wouldn't consume. And not just that you wouldn't consume it, but because you wouldn't consume it because you know that it's harmful, but you would sell it to your own people, or anybody really for that matter, but especially kind of given our precarious position.
Martin, Asiel, and Gator ain't all bad. They've done good for the black community. But when they use their power as leaders to support a white guy who beat a little black boy into a coma, that's some sellout shit. But does that make them sellouts? Part of my motivation for revisiting this story was to talk to these guys. I wanted to ask them what really happened here. I want to see if after 25 years they would have done things differently. Asiel passed away. May he rest in peace. But the other day I got Gator on the phone. We shot the shit for a while. Everything was copacetic. Then I told him this was about Leonard Clark, and his whole mood, whole attitude shifted. That's old shit. What you want to bring that shit up for? Well, just take what I said back then. Well, what he said back then was, they give some, you get some. A quid pro quo philosophy. So the call with Gator was quick. It was time for me to speak directly to Frank Caruso and Reverend Martin.
I'm trying to remember this part. Was there ever an exchange of money for the work of the gospel that I was promoting?
That's next time on You Didn't See Nothing. You Didn't See Nothing is a production of the Invisible Institute and USG Audio. This podcast is written and reported by me, Yohance Lacour, with Bill Healy, Dana Brozost-Kelleher, Erisa Apantaku, and Sarah Geis. Sound design, mixing, and music supervision by Stephen Jackson and Phil Dmochowski at the Audio Non-Visual Company. Original music by Taka Yasuzawa. Our executive producers are Alison Flowers and Jamie Kalven for the Invisible Institute and Josh Bloch for USG Audio. Production support by Jennifer Sears. Fact-checking by Angely Mercado. Our key art is by Kenneth L. Copeland Jr. Special thanks to brother Randy Evans, Steve Bogira, and his amazing reporting in the book Courtroom 302. Check it out. The family of Joe Lattimore. He's the brother who took those videos at the protests. Thank you so much to his wife, Benita, and his daughter, Jonita, for letting us into your home and allowing us to digitize those videos. Mindy, Pugh, and the Progressive Community Church Archives at the Illinois Institute of Technology. And thanks to Bob Berlin. Archival audio used in this episode is from CNN, Dateline, WBEZ, NPR, WMAQ, C-SPAN, and WTTW. For more information, go to our show notes or visit our website, usgaudio.com.